After 3 months of working alone in another part of the country, my husband brought his partner in adultery back home to me and said something that changed everything.
I got this beauty here pregnant. I want a divorce. And since it's going to cost me a lot of money from now on to raise our child, I'll give you zero alimony. Is that alright with you?
Yep, that's fine. I'll gladly divorce you. My husband and his cheating lover were overjoyed to hear my response. Seeing that, I let the corners of my mouth twitch slightly, suppressing a devious smile as I thought to myself, if you think you're going to get away with what you want, you're sorely wrong, darling. This is the story of how my husband, a kind, confident, compassionate guy once upon a time, turned into someone I did not want to be with for the rest of my life, and how his heinous actions gave him extremely serious consequences. My name is Amanda, and I'm a 30-year-old housewife. I used to live together with my ex-husband, Shane, who ran his own business. He wasn't the founder of the business, however, his grandfather was, and this year marked the company's 123rd anniversary, and Shane was going to inherit the business from his father, Mr. Orville. We initially met through a mutual friend, Zia, who was actually worried about the fact that I was such a workaholic. Her words, by the way, and that I wasn't in a relationship, so she took the liberty of matchmaking me with Shane. When we first met, he came across as someone very confident in himself, perhaps because he already knew that he would be taking over the family business. I was attracted to him because of his confidence, because he seemed capable of doing the job, whether that job was running the business well or playing the role of a good man in a relationship. And when we started dating, he was very kind and fun to talk to, and he never boasted about his privileges. Around me, he was a very modest and humble person, and he was very interested in learning about my life. As I got to know more about him, I discovered that sometimes that confidence of his turned into a form of arrogance. But at least, he was never like that with me, mostly with the colleagues at his company events. His gentle and sensitive side outweighed his flaws, and I knew I wanted to be with him for the rest of my life. After 5 years of dating, Shane proposed to me, and we decided to get married. I was going to continue working after we got married, but Shane asked me to become his wife, by which he meant to be a stay-at-home wife.
As my wife, I would like you to quit your job and support me at home, if you don't mind, honey.
I had worked so hard at my job my whole career that I couldn't imagine quitting my job. However, I thought it would be possible to live and to find another form of happiness as I supported my husband from now on. So I put his feelings first and quit my job. I don't mean to brag or anything, but while I was working as a bookkeeper for a local company, I had the reputation of being an excellent employee. So when I told my boss that I was quitting, he desperately tried to stop me, and he was very adamant that I stay. But since my intentions were firm, he eventually understood and did no more to stop me from leaving. All right, Miss Amanda, I support you. We all do, but you must promise me that you'll come back to us one day. I'm joking, of course. It'll just be so hard to see you leave us. I invited quite a few people from the company to my wedding, and it turned out to be a very nice event. Truly the wedding of my dreams. I felt like a stranger as I told myself, today's the day I get married. And my husband was looking down at me with such a wonderful smile on his face as he gave his speech. I'm going to live happily with him from now on. I felt so happy thinking that. But as our life as a married couple began, I started to see Shane's true colors. At the beginning of our marriage, my husband was preparing to take over the business, and he was very busy preparing for this and that, and I was happy to be able to support my husband at his side with whatever I could do. So I cooked his favorite dishes for him when he came home tired, washed his bed sheets so he can go to bed smelling fresh, and vacuumed up any dust that can cause any discomfort for him. I don't think I need to tell you how very happy I was when he was happy.
Thank you for always doing your best to take care of the housework, darling. Thanks to you, I'm happy every day.
Well, hey, thank you for always working hard for us, Shane. And I'm just so happy to be able to support you and be by your side.
I'm so glad I married you.
And I felt so blessed because Shane never failed to express his gratitude. Even my in-laws were so ecstatic that I was his wife. I'm so happy someone like you came into my son's life. You are an amazing wife, dear.
You quit your job for Shane's sake, despite the fact you were good at the company you worked for, I hear. I can't thank you enough for taking measures. Some honestly unnecessary selfless, I admit, but still very helpful to support our boy. Bless you, my dear.
The president of the company I used to work for and my father-in-law were very well acquainted with each other, so he had heard some things about me before I even met him. Mr. Orville is such a kind soul, and his wife likewise, and when he told me he heard of my resignation as a business owner, he was sorry that I left the company. And then came the concerning bit about telling my in-laws about when we were thinking about having kids, and their answers actually surprised me. When you have kids, that is completely up to you two, my dear. So take your time and move at your own pace and don't stress about it, okay? In the end, it is your decision. Oh, but aren't you worried about having an heir for your business, Mr. Orville?
Call me Hector, dear. And you need not think about it. Besides, heirs are old-fashioned now. I intend to grant someone who wants to be the president, who is also worthy of the position, their wish of running the business in the future.
And that's what he said. I told this to my friend Zia, the same friend who initially introduced me to Shane. Wow, they are very flexible in-laws, aren't they? That's right, they are, but I think they're thinking about their heir, so I can't help but think I have to hurry up and get pregnant, you know? What are you talking about, sweetie? I'm sure they mean what they said, okay? You don't have to rush anything. I doubt that. Okay, why would you doubt their heartful words, sweetie? Listen to me when I tell you I freaking envy you, okay? I mean, Mr. Orville's the president of a company and all, so anyone could agree he very well may pester his daughter-in-law about conceiving a rightful heir to inherit the business and stuff, but he's so flexible and nice, and Miss Orville too? Wow, seriously, it's so amazing your in-laws have a very flexible, open mind about this entire situation, and they're willing to be patient to not give you any stress. You married their son, and in any case, I can guarantee you they're filled to the brim with happiness and gratitude, sweetie, okay? They really are wonderful people, Zia, and that's exactly why I don't want them to be so bummed. Why do you stay so rigid when your in-laws are so flexible, girl? If they say I don't have to worry about it, then don't worry about it. It's that simple. And if I were to marry, I'd want to be married to someone with folks as nice as your in-laws. I was so happy when Zia complimented me about my in-laws. And I was also very grateful to them for their flexibility and willingness to accept me. Such was the relationship with my in-laws. And needless to say, things were great. But my relationship with my husband started to change little by little. After a while, he sometimes came home late, perhaps because he was busy with work, but regardless of the time of the day, he would start drinking alcohol. And he would drink a lot of alcohol. Like when we were first married, if he came home late, he often didn't drink because he had to think about the next day's line of work. But more recently, he drank without a care in the world, like he was back in college or something. If that was all there was to it, everything would have been fine, but for the reality that he was one of those people that got frustrated and lashed out at others when he drinks, I was no exception either. If anything, I was the one who experienced the worst of his outburst.
Drink! I'll have some more, so shake a leg and frickin' bring me some, woman. And bring snacks too.
All right, Shane.
That's not how you address your husband. From now on, whenever you answer to me, you are to say, yes, sir. Is that frickin' clear?
Yes, sir.
You're a housewife. You're to do everything for your husband. That's me. Understand? You'll face the consequences if I don't feel satisfied.
What a whiny bitch he was. God damn. As the night wore on, Shane was getting more intoxicated. Maybe you should cut back a little, honey. You're drinking too much, and you have to go to work tomorrow, so maybe you should go to bed early. Shane's expression changed instantly when I pointed this out to him. He got up, slammed the table so hard that he could have scared a silverback gorilla, and started yelling at me at the top of his lungs.
And you are not working, you're just staying at home, doing stupid easy tasks without ever even breaking a sweat. I'm going into the world, breaking my back, trying to provide enough for both of us to have a good life. I'm freaking tired after a long-ass day of working. What the frick is wrong with having a few drinks, huh?
I was so surprised at his outburst that I backed away. That fury expressed in his voice sent shockwaves of fear across my entire body. And before I knew it, my hands were cupped around my nose and my mouth, scared out of my mind and on the verge of breaking down into tears. I tripped on the couch behind me, and as I backed away, I felt all the strength in my legs leave as I collapsed onto the floor. Seeing the look on my face, Shane panicked and began apologizing, desperately. He dropped to his knees and very slowly started approaching the couch.
My gosh, what did I just do? Amanda, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. I guess I was more tired than I thought. These days I just can't sleep unless I've had a drink or two, but I drank too much tonight and I made you scared. I'm so sorry.
He was kneeling in front of me at that point, his eyes staring deep into mine, his warm hands clutching mine. The twinkle in his eyes proved he genuinely felt terrible about what he did, and the fear that I had went away. I'm also sorry, honey. I know you're tired from work. I didn't think a drink was exactly what you needed. I should have paid attention to your feelings. He placed his forehead on my knees as he began to mutter the same 3 words.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sure Shane was tired because he had so much to take care of, and he was going to take over the family business and to become the president of a company and lead it towards the success that it was made for. I know it's not easy, and that was going to be very stressful on him. The stress he's feeling must have been unfathomable. I should have been more understanding, and I felt like I said too much when I suggested he stop drinking. But in my defense, he did have to work the next day, and I was worried that the amount of alcohol he was drinking would affect his focus. After that night, Shane became angry and extremely self-centered when he drank, and he started yelling at me whenever I mentioned anything to him.
You're a lowly housewife. Don't complain to me, the president of a frickin' business, making enough money to provide for 2 families. Your job is to take care of me, and that sure as hell excludes telling me what to do.
I'm sorry.
And also, if you ever came to work for my company, you wouldn't be appreciated. You wouldn't even get a bonus. You may have done reasonably well at your old job, but now you're no better than a damn housekeeper. You're so worthless it's making me sick to my stomach.
He went so far to just start degrading everything about me. I began to find it hard to support Shane, and it broke my heart because he changed from this kind man who used to be so sweet to me to this abusive bastard whenever he would take a drink. As the life continued, our feelings for each other continued to disappear. Perhaps because of this, Shane started coming home later even more frequently. No. And he even stayed the night somewhere else on multiple nights on end. He was supposedly staying at the office, which conveniently had a nice designated relaxation room for such situations. And we continued to have our differences, and he continued to come home late, if not at all, until he came home earlier than usual one day because he had said he wanted to talk to me about something.
Everything's sorted now, and I'm finally taking over the business, Amanda. I should officially be president of Orville next week.
Congratulations, honey.
I'm so sorry I've been so busy lately that we haven't had much time to spend together. I'm sure things will settle down quite a bit now that everything's sorted. Why don't we have a baby?
What? To be brutally honest, I was worried. Shane's personality changed whenever he would drink, and as you've heard me elaborately explain, we've had our differences, and all of these components combined made me unsure if having a child was the sanest thing to do right now. But just because we would try to conceive a baby doesn't mean we'll have one anytime soon. And I knew I wanted to have a child eventually, so I cast all my doubts out the window, and from that day onward, we tried to conceive to have a child. I guess this is what Miss Orville was talking about, the timing of conceiving a child. However, after a month of trying to get pregnant, my husband announced that he had to go to another part of the country to work alone in a branch for some time. When I asked him how long he would be gone, hoping it would only be a couple of weeks, I was met with the harsh truth. The duration of his stay at the other branch would be 3 months. I thought it was inevitable because of his work, so we temporarily stopped trying to have a baby. But 2 weeks after he went on a business trip, I went to the hospital because I wasn't feeling too well. And after some tests, the doctor gave me the unbelievable news that I was pregnant. I was overjoyed, and Shane had said he wanted an heir, so I was sure he would be very pleased too. And that was exactly why I wanted to tell him, and that's exactly why I wanted to tell him in person. However, I realized I had a teeny tiny problem with that. I hadn't heard which city he was going to work in, or which branch he would be working for. In other words, I had absolutely no idea where my husband was right now at this very moment. So I decided to contact his company and ask him where he was assigned to. And that's when things went downhill so unexpectedly and so damn quickly. Oh, President Orville Jr.? It seems the president is taking a long vacation, 3 months, I believe. I'm under the impression he and his wife are on a vacation together. What did you say? I was surprised, and the receptionist was surprised because I was surprised, and this wasn't good at all. I'm wondering, I'm President Orville Jr.'s wife, and they must be wondering why I, his wife, didn't know where he was. And I felt worried that my exclamation would provoke unnecessary gossip throughout the whole company. And if such a thing happened, everything Shane had ever worked for would have been all for naught. So I quickly said, "Oh, wait a minute. I just remember something. He said he was going to his parents' house today. That's right. Oh, dear, I am such a klutz. I completely forgot. Sorry to bother you. You have a nice day now." I was still nervous after I hung up the phone, so Shane wasn't working at another branch for 3 months. He was supposedly taking a long vacation. I didn't understand what that meant. I knew I wouldn't get anywhere thinking about it on my own, so I decided to call Zia and ask her to help me out with the situation. I told her that I was pregnant and that my husband was verbally violent with me when he drank, and that he lied about taking time off from work, saying that he was going on a 3-month reassignment to another branch in another part of the country. That's moral harassment, isn't it? Moral harassment? No, of course not. It's not. It's my inability to be useful and do everything right around the house that makes him angry. It's my fault. I'm a total failure, a screw-up of a wife, a worthless piece of shit. You see, that's someone who's been harassed would say. You have been mentally abused. What do you mean? There is a such thing as a bad marriage, you know. An ideal marriage is where a husband and a wife complement each other, and that they can always support each other when someone needs something from the other, and that they take care of each other and respect one another equally. So do you notice anything wrong with your relationship right now with Shane as I'm telling you this? I was silent, deep in thought, until a horrifying truth became very apparent to me. I wasn't really supporting Shane anymore as I thought I was. I was only behaving obediently and as angelic as possible in order not to anger him, and to be frightened by his fits of rage and verbal violence. I never realized this until Zia gave me insight, and I was immediately ashamed of how much of a servant I had become to him. You know, your life right now is not just your own, Amanda. You are now a mom growing a child in that belly of yours, and for the sake of both of you, you need to be more confident in yourself, find the love that you have and the strength that you need, and you need to take better care of yourself, okay? And I know you got this, and you got me too. Those words disillusioned me from the semi-fraudulent reality that now defined my life, and a new sense of determination ignited within me. I now had a child in my belly, and I was the only one who could protect it. So I made up my mind to face Shane, and for my baby's sake, and for my own as well. After that, Zia advised me to go to a detective agency to investigate Shane. I hired a trusted agency with the task of determining if Shane was up to anything suspicious. As a result of the investigation, I found out that my husband was cheating on me. I was shocked, but I was able to keep my feelings in check thanks to the baby I was carrying. Stress, be it physical or emotional, spelt disaster for the healthy growth of my baby, and I had to make sure I was at peace. 3 months passed more quickly than I realized. The day when Shane said he was coming home approached rapidly, and then, finally, he walked in through the front door for the first time in a while. And he'd brought back a woman whom he was having an affair with. They'd been drinking without a doubt because the smell of whiskey and rum was so strong on his breath. 3 months pregnant, I became so sensitive to smells, and alcohol was something I had to avoid to keep the baby growing healthy and strong, without any harmful substances getting into it. The smell of whiskey was unbearable, and it was making me gag.
I'm home. And also, this is the beautiful lady, Kara Kim, and I got this maiden pregnant. I want a divorce.
What?
It's gonna cost a lot of V-Bucks. Oh, whoops, I meant regular bucks, our bucks from now on, so I'm gonna give you 0 alimony. Is that alright with you?
You've already had a nice freaking rich time as the big boss's wife, right? You've had enough time, my dear little Amanda, and I'm not going to let some blood-sucking leech cling to my fiancé's money. You couldn't keep this wild stallion's heart, dear, and this eager mare managed to tame him into a gentle, passionate beast once again. And now, new life's gonna bless this shithole of a world because of our lovey-doveys.
When the concerningly intoxicated Kara said so, the two cheaters both laughed. Shane was even drunker than his pregnant maiden, and I didn't want to get in trouble for saying something here. Besides, I wouldn't want anything to happen to the baby in my own belly. I didn't resist. Fine, I'll divorce you, but I'm going to keep the house.
Wait, seriously? Go ahead. Keep this whorehouse. I actually just bought an exquisite condo today to live in from now on with this girl. Something you'd never be able to understand, Amanda.
So there's no problem. Great. I'll have to put it in my name, so you just take care of the paperwork, okay?
Yeah, gotcha. I'll mail you the divorce papers, so make sure you submit them at the city hall, yeah?
Deal.
Yay, I'm glad your divorce was so easy. Your old wife is so sweet.
With that, they left the house, hopped into Shane's car, and drove away. I hoped they would survive the night, even though they were drunk driving after all. So what the hell am I saying? I didn't give a good goddamn about those freaking maggots anyways. An hour later, I got a call from my father-in-law.
Hello, Amanda. So, you're not going to believe this. The strangest thing just happened with Shane. He just came home with another girl at his side. He told me that he was divorcing you and that he was marrying the woman whom he called Lady Kara or some shit like that. Do you have any idea what the hell is going on here?
Poor Mr. Orville. How horrified and confused he must be feeling. I told him everything that had happened thus far. I told him that I was pregnant and that I tried to tell Shane, but he discovered he'd lied to me about going to work for another branch in another part of the country because he was in fact taking a trip in the Bermudas with this woman, Kara. I also told him what transpired that night before Shane made his way to his family home and that I'd been having a very hard time because Shane had been so out of control when he drank alcohol and he abused me verbally and psychologically. The last straw was that he'd been drinking and driving, and when I told him all of this, Mr. Orville's voice was quivering with fury when he answered as calmly as he could.
I understand, dear. I'll make him take responsibility and I'll come back later to apologize. I'm so sorry about everything.
That's all he said, and he hung up the phone. A few minutes later, I got another call, this time from Miss Orville. Amanda, dear, Shane is acting up. Please send help. I guess he was drinking alcohol right when his family got angry with him and didn't like it and went completely berserk. I called the police and then headed to my in-laws' house, which is about 15 minutes away by driving. I couldn't see how things would transpire later on that evening. I mean, that sarcastically, of course. I was only heading over there because I was concerned for the safety of Mr. and Mrs. Orville. When I arrived there, the police had already stormed the house. As I walked towards the front door, I saw multiple police officers apprehending Shane, who was struggling aggressively to free himself from their grasp. His thrashing sent an officer off balance and with his foot forcefully pushed him down the stairs that led up to the door. The officer landed at the bottom of the steps with a soul-wrenching crack. As he hit his head on the pavement, he wasn't knocked unconscious, but he lay there holding his head, moaning loudly in pain. A different police officer rushed to subdue my husband, but because he was already so intoxicated, his own body didn't seem to have any control over itself, and Shane suddenly collapsed to the ground himself. So the medics stepped in and rolled him onto a stretcher, and they hauled him away in an ambulance. The unfaithful Lady Kara tried to escape in the midst of all the commotion, but the police stopped her quickly and apprehended her without much difficulty. And the lead officer asked her to follow them to the station, and the last I ever saw of Lady Kara was of her being shoved into a vehicle in handcuffs. I spent the night with Mr. and Miss Orville that day, and we talked about the situation well into the night. The next day, Shane woke up in a hospital bed. He seemed surprised to see me there at his side reading a book.
Why the frick are you here?
Oh, good morning. I actually forgot to tell you something, and I figured the right time to tell you was actually right now when you woke up. I'm going to demand an alimony and child support after the divorce is finalized.
Child support? Are you frickin' crackers? We don't have a kid, in case you didn't frickin' know.
Yeah, I'm actually pregnant, Shane. And I was about to tell you, but you told me you want a divorce before you ever gave me a chance to tell you the good news.
You can't be serious. No, you're not serious.
And why would I want to lie to you now of all times? My husband was visibly shocked, and the sight was frankly hilarious, actually. But he was more concerned about something other than the baby.
You said you didn't want alimony.
I told him with a laugh. Oh, I didn't say that, honey. I never said that. But you had so much to drink that you convinced yourself that I did it in your favor. Shane went on to glare at me with murderous intent. I glared back with a large, ominous smile on my face. Then Mr. Orville Sr. stormed into the room and forcefully joined the conversation.
What in the goddamn Vitamita Vegemin jelly bean shit mix have you done to Amanda? What the hell do you mean you're not paying any alimony? Why did you grow up to be such a bastard who doesn't understand simple human emotions?
Miss Orville trudged inside as he was being shouted at, and a handkerchief covering her eyes and her sniffles echoed throughout the room as the only sound amidst a deadly silence. Shane said nothing, as if he couldn't say anything back when his own parents said that. Perhaps seeing his own mother crying in shame towards what he had done and brought him back to his freaking senses. Well, I'll be just fine with alimony and child support, and I'm supposed to get the house too, remember?
What'll be left for me then?
Maybe that pregnant woman of yours. Oh, yes, Lady Kara, was it? Well, I feel bad for the baby, honestly. I really do. To be born to two stupid, drunk, infested parents like you? Ugh, that is such a bitch.
Don't you frick with me. Know your goddamn place, boy.
And I thought the house was in your name, but it's actually in your father's. And we've already negotiated to a great compromise, and he'll take care of everything. Now all that's left for you to do is to never have anything to do with me or my baby again. When I told him that, he just laid there stunned and silent, unable to say anything. Then a police officer walked in, followed by two more.
We're here about yesterday. We have an official warrant out for Mr. Shane Orville. You are under arrest for the assault of Officer Earl Wilcox. We've kicked down a total of 6 steps. totaling in 4 feet at approximately 1:14 a.m. on the morning of September 12th. Officer Wilcox was diagnosed with a mild concussion due to the fall and has been ordered to remain in hospital for 1 week. Upon your recovery, you'll be taken in for custody.
My in-laws agreed to pay for my husband's alimony and child support for the time being. Thereafter, Shane and I got divorced without anything problematic occurring. He was released almost immediately after he was arrested because he was charged with assault while under the influence of copious amounts of alcohol. He was released on parole and was charged with paying for Officer Wilcox's medical bills, which my in-laws graciously took care of. They even made a small donation to the police department who come to help the night before, as a token of their appreciation. Shane's punishment may have been pretty mild, but society had other ideas to pay him back. He was kicked out of his company, and as of now, he's looking for a new one. Needless to say, it's going to be tough for him to get another job since he made the headlines when he was arrested. His parents also cut off ties with him, so he has nowhere to go and no one to turn to. No more nepotism for Shane. And as for Kara Kim, I hired a detective agency to investigate her, more specifically her address and her workplace, so I made sure to demand alimony from her as well. Shane and Kara are now married apparently, but since they have no money, they're really having a hard time making ends meet. And I heard that Kara can't work because she is with child, so she's staying at home as Shane goes to work multiple part-time jobs. They just can't catch a break, and their married life is full of quarrels. They absolutely deserve each other. As for me, I was asked to work for Mr. Orville's company, but I didn't feel comfortable working for the company where my ex-husband used to work, so I decided to go back to the company where I used to work, keeping my promise to my old boss. He was overjoyed when he found me back in the building, but then showed sympathy when I told him everything that had happened up until then. The company has a daycare center too, so I can work without worrying too much about raising my child when they're born. And I still keep in touch with the Orvilles, and sometimes I invite them for a luncheon, and we still have a very friendly relationship. I'm sure that there will be many hard days ahead after the birth of my child, but as a single mother, I will raise my child responsibly and make sure they grow up to be responsible, independent, and compassionate.